Hello, folks. It's Lisa Neller here, and I have a question for you tonight, and it is, have you ever thought about what your superpower is? And perhaps you have more than one. What if you could own five? Tonight, we are going to learn 5 superpowers to be extraordinary with my guest, Jean Brees, and I'm going to introduce her in just a minute. But first, I want to welcome you to Unstuck, the Road to Reinvention. I'm your host, Lisa Neller. I'm a reinvention life coach, and I help empty nesting women find their purpose and mojo after 20 plus years of motherhood. And so I help women get unstuck in their frozen state of minds and limited thinking. And if you want to learn more about me and get my free video series, you can go to reinventionlifecoach.com, get that series, which will give you a way to chart a new course. Okay, so with that, I'm going to introduce our guest, Jean Brees. So excited. Okay, here we go. Abandoned at 15, Jean Brees became a lost child on the street. An avid hiker, she began to climb her way out of the streets and up to the life she loves. Jean spent over 20 years creating and leading an award-winning team for a Fortune 10 technology firm. Is that right? Fortune 10? Fortune 100? Fortune 10, okay. She founded a nonprofit organization to support law enforcement families. How cool is that? In 2016, after suffering a fall that left her homebound and bedridden for months, she realized that her corporate climb had her spending most of her time in spreadsheets and meetings, and she wanted to do more of what she loved, which is helping others live their best life and to do the things they think impossible. So in 2016, she cut the corporate ties and launched a new career where she does what she loves all the time, helping people and teams realize their highest potential. Earlier this year, Jean was honored as one of Phoenix's outstanding women in business, and she was just sworn in as president for the National Association of Women Business Owners, and that's the Phoenix chapter. I was a member of NAWBO for a while, and I had to take a break, but I will probably be back. So I am truly honored to have Jean here tonight, and we are really lucky to have her because we have a powerhouse in the house tonight. So Jean, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And hello, all of Lisa's listeners. Excited to be here and chat with you this evening.
So happy you're here. So, okay, Jean, you have a reinvention story, right? So I would love to hear how you managed to become so successful after such a rough start in life.
Yeah, I look back now, sitting where I'm sitting, and can say now that there were some things that lent itself that were fortunate for me. There were some blessings in that, as there are in everything in life, right? But at the time, I had nothing. So I was 15, I was on the street, I'm couch hopping to find a place to sleep. I'm selling flowers on the corner of the street to have a little bit of money for food and essentials. And I had a life-changing moment when some people from a church, it was right before Christmas, and they decided to help me. And in that moment, with their kindness, I look back on everything that's happened to me since then, and it was in that moment that I made a decision that I wanted to be a helper, and I wanted to live a good life. And I feel very fortunate. The reason I say I'm fortunate that I had that experience is twofold. Number one, I learned the secret to success really early. Very many times we think the secret to success is something external to us. We think it's having the right connections or having enough money or having the right education or you're not smart enough. We think it's this privilege that we either have or we don't have. And I learned at that age on the street that the secret to success is really, there's only two things. And that's, you make up your mind that you're going to do it, and you put in the work. And that sounds super simple, but it's not simple. But that's the secret. You make up your mind what you're going to do, and you put in the work. And at 15, it was an easy decision for me because I had nowhere to go and I had nothing to lose. So that was the secret. I had this life-changing moment where I said, I'm going to live a good life. I'm going to become one of the helpers. And I put in the work from there. Wasn't easy, but it paid off.
Well, and that makes so much sense to me to first make the decision. And I think everybody could, if they're in a state of flux, like they're feeling confused and they don't know what to do, they have to make a decision. And of course, if you don't make a decision, you're making a decision. So,
yeah.
But I like the idea of making a conscious decision to go to do something. And then, of course, doing the work to see the job through. So very cool. Yeah. So you spent years in corporate America and eventually left. What fears did you face as you were moving into the entrepreneurial space?
There's always a little bit of fear, right? No matter what you're doing, no matter how confident you are, there's a little bit of fear. The two big fears for me were, I'm not going to get a paycheck every week. So that's a scary thing, to give up that paycheck that's coming in, whether as long as I show up at work, I get a paycheck. When you leave that corporate world and you go out on your own, that was a big fear.
Yes.
And that was eased for me because I had the right coach, and I had a coach who'd done what I was trying to do. And so the coach really helped me understand what I needed to prepare and have ready to take that next step, so that it gave me the confidence that I had a plan that was going to carry me through until I could start making regular, consistent money. So that kind of, the coach made all the difference. It gave me the confidence. My other big fear, and I think this is where a lot of people get stuck in making that decision. That's why they get stuck in, I'm not going to make a decision yet. Because we think we need to have all the answers in order to take the first step. And it's very scary to take a step and not know exactly where it's going to lead. But sometimes you just have to take the next right step in front of you, and the plan evolves as you're taking those steps. And that's a really scary thing for us as humans, because we want to know all the answers. We want to see the end goal. And it just doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, but also I think you, tell me if I'm wrong, but you must have been just being guided from your heart. Like, this is what you wanted to do. You were good at this. And so that sort of carries you through, right? To get the coach and get the plan in place and take the baby steps or whatever steps you need to take. Because you're coming from here, right?
Absolutely, Lisa. And the truth be told, I probably should have taken the steps sooner than I did. I can look back now and say I knew years before I actually made the step, but that I didn't have that confidence to move out of that, this is what I should do, and move into actually taking the steps. So it took a while. It's a process. It's a transition. Whenever you're going through a transition, it's a struggle.
Yeah, but it's worth it. They say
it is.
It's, what is it? What's the saying about the journey? It's not where you're going. It's the journey getting there. Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's dive in to the 5 superpowers. And for those of you who are listening, stay tuned for all 5, because it matters to hear all 5. All right. So let's just start with number 1.
Sure.
You wanted to, we're talking about 5 superpowers that all women have, right? That all women carry, men too, but I'm not trying to diss men here, but we're talking about women tonight.
Right. And the thing about the superpowers, couple things before I tell you what they are. They are simple, but don't mistake simple for easy, because if it was easy, we'd already all be doing it all the time. So some of it you've heard before. And why is that? Why do we talk about things that you've heard before? Because it's just like having kids. How many times do you have to tell your kid to go clean their room? They know they need to clean their room. They know they're going to feel better when they clean their room, but you got to remind them to keep cleaning their room. So sometimes we need to be reminded about the things that are good for us too. So some of the superpowers you're going to say, I know that, but I'm going to give you some new ideas and some new ways to look at them too. So some of it you've heard before, you're going to hear some new things as well. And the reason that I call them superpowers is because any one of the 5 has the ability to be life-changing. So that's why I call them superpowers. And the reason that you want to stay tuned until number 5 is because you'll hear all the other superpowers, but if you miss number 5, if you don't do number 5, none of the rest of them really matter. So stay tuned to hear that last one.
Okay.
So number one, first superpower is habits. I like to study people that do the extraordinary. And everybody who's done anything extraordinary, whether they're an athlete like a Michael Phelps, most decorated Olympic athlete in the world, or they are extraordinary in the arts like a Martha Graham, who invented a whole dance genre that we'd never even seen before and used her body as art in incredible ways. Or whether it's in business, like Steve Jobs, who's changed the way we use phones and changed so much in our world today. Anybody who's done anything extraordinary, the difference between them and us is their habits. And we all have them. Their routines, their rhythms, and whether it's I get up in the morning and I go walk my dog, or I come home in the evening and I catch a couple hours of football, it's these rhythms and routines that we go through every day, that when you stitch them all together, it really makes up the whole fabric of our lives. And they have incredible power, because the thing about habits is you don't think about it. You're just acting. So if my habit is I get up and I run every day, I don't have to think about fitness because it's a habit. It's already happening. So they have incredible power. They can have incredible power for the good, or they can have consequences that we don't necessarily like. And so for those of you that are listening who are in maybe a transition, and maybe you're thinking about what's next for me, I would say, examine your own habits. And one of the habits that I would suggest might be a good habit to look at in your own life is one that was Michael Phelps, most decorated athlete. And if you Google him, he will tell you that he contributes his success to his habits. And when I heard that, I thought, I want to see what those habits were. And I thought, he swims every day for 6 hours, or he goes to the gym and does strength training. Yeah. One of the habits that he gives credit to all of his success, he's banished I can't. He's banished I can't from his vocabulary. He's banished I can't from anybody who works with him. It's just not something that is allowed in his world. And so I thought that was so powerful. And it's, again, seems really simple, but it's not, because our minds automatically, that's the problem with the habit, is it automatically kicks in. And so I like to say there's a couple of ways that we can use that. We can obviously, in our personal lives, we can just quit saying I can't, and we can catch ourselves and retrain ourselves to say I can. But the other thing I love, here in Arizona, we got the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they have a policy that I love that's called FAWTSY, FAWTSY. Stands for find a way to say yes. And so I love thinking about it like that. Not talking about setting healthy boundaries, that's a different topic, but finding a way to say yes when your inclination is you can't. Is there a way I could say yes? So kind of a tip, especially at a time of transition, is there a way I can say yes to this and get outside of my normal comfort zone? So I guess I want to wrap this all up with saying, I would challenge you, if you're listening, to ask yourself, when was the last time I implemented a life-changing habit for the good?
That's a great question. And it can even include flossing your teeth. All of a sudden, I'm having an echo. I don't know where that's coming from. So I'm going to let you continue to take it on to superpower number 2.
Number 2, superpower number 2 is the power of purpose. I was flying back from a speaking engagement in Canada, and I'm reading on the plane a Fortune Inc. article, and they're talking about the number 1 trait that recruiters look for when they want to hire a new CEO. And I thought that was super interesting. And because I believe we're all CEOs, right? We're CEOs of our life. Nobody else is responsible for how my life turns out but me. So I'm the CEO. And so I wanted to know, what's the number 1 trait that people want in a CEO? Purpose. And the reason that we want purpose is because when you have purpose and when you walk in your purpose, you can influence others to action. And when you have purpose and you know your purpose, people will follow you. So we're all influencing somebody, especially as women. We are influencing our spouses, we're influencing our children, we're influencing, maybe we're on a volunteer board or we're in the community, but we're all influencing others in some way. And if we're clear on our purpose, we can have much more influence. Now, the problem is, in America, we're a culture of doers. We do. We want results and we're on the go. So we go to school and we get out of school and we get a job and we get a job and we get stuff. And as soon as we get stuff, we got to get stuff for our stuff. You know, I get a car and now I need a license plate and I need those dangly dice that go in the mirror, you know. So we're always doing, and we never stop and take time to reflect on who we are. And here's what I want to tell you about that. There are 7 billion people in this world. There's no one that has the same gifts that you do. The same gifts, the same skills, the same experience, the same knowledge that you do. And when you use your gifts were given to you when you were created, and they were given to you to fulfill your purpose. When you use your gifts with your knowledge and your experience and your skills to fulfill your purpose, that is when the magic happens. That's when you become unstoppable. So if you haven't spent time reflecting on your purpose, now is a great time. And I know as women, especially, we get caught in that trap because it's always been about them, right? It's been about our spouse or it's been about our kids. And then when we become empty nesters, we're like, okay, now it's about me and I don't even know who I am. So
it's so true. It's so, yeah. We're busy taking care of everyone else and forgetting about who we are and what we're meant to do here. So, and you know, for me, my purpose was motherhood for a really long time. And, but I think that who I am as a personality goes beyond motherhood for sure. But also, you know, you get kind of stuck in that role for a very long time. I don't mean stuck, but, you know, you're in it for a long time. I was happy to be stuck in motherhood.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love that. So, okay.
Well, so let me just say, you know, you can have different purpose for a different season. We go through different seasons in our life, and you can have a purpose, like you said, motherhood's the purpose now. And then when our kids leave the nest, now I got to maybe spend some more time reflecting on my purpose. And if you don't know what your purpose is, I always say, look to your gifts. Look to the things that you are passionate about, that you could do all day long and never get tired, because that's where your gifts are. And in your gifts, you'll find your purpose.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Number 3.
great.
This is good stuff. I need some other habits, and I know my purpose, but I could use some new habits. But what's number 3?
Number three is people. I like to say some people are blessings and some people are lessons. But the truth is, there's a study that was done, and it revealed that when you increase the number of friends in your circle, it has the same effect on your well-being as a 50% increase in your salary. Just increasing the friends in your circle increases your well-being, which I thought was really interesting, because I would say increasing the right friends, adding the right friends to your circle. So anytime, my experience has taught me, anytime you're going to do something extraordinary, anytime you're going to do something that has never been done before or that people think is impossible, or anytime you're just going to do something that's new for you and people don't necessarily see you in that way, there's going to be naysayers. And so the trick is that you have to, if you want to do something new, or if you want to do something you've never done before, oftentimes those naysayers are the people that are closest to us. When I left the corporate world and wanted to start my own business, my daughter was a financial advisor at the time, and she was like, "Mom, are you crazy? What are you thinking? Just hang in there and retire." So she loves me and she meant well, but oftentimes the people closest to us can be naysayers. So the trick is to find your woohoo crowd. And if you're going to do something you've never done before, who's done it? If, I wanted to be a speaker. I knew that that's what I was destined to do. I knew that was my purpose. So I found somebody who'd done it. I found somebody who had been a teacher and left the teaching profession to go become a speaker. And that's how I launched. My circle today looks completely different than it did when I was in the corporate world. And that's not a bad thing. I still have those people as my friends, but the people I'm with every day are women entrepreneurs, because women entrepreneurs can relate to what I'm going through and what my struggles are. So people is the third superpower. And I would encourage you to look at your own circle and ask yourself, who do I need to add to it? And be intentional about who you need to add to your circle.
Well, I love people, and that's easy for me. It's not as easy for some people. So I see what you're saying, and I also think of it as expanding your sphere of influence, which you spoke of in the last one, is having that influence. And I'm guessing that if you're not inclined to go expand your network or your group of people that surround you, you have to go back to your purpose, right? Like something's got to drive you to do something that you're a little uncomfortable with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a couple of tips for folks that are maybe a little bit more introverted and they're not comfortable. I'm comfortable going into a room and introducing myself to everybody. Yeah, that's not the norm.
Yeah.
and so I get that. And so a couple of tricks that I like to use is I spend a couple of hours each month figuring out who I need to know that would be good to add to my circle. So when I first launched my business, I wanted to meet other entrepreneurs because I needed a woohoo crowd. So I wanted to meet other female entrepreneurs. And so I was reading the Phoenix Business Journal, and I saw some women that were being recognized as being, they were nominated as Athena Award winners, and they were speaking at an event. So I signed up to go to the event. And what I did, everybody nowadays, everything's online. So you can see who else is going. And so, and you can go on LinkedIn, or you can go on Facebook, and you can find out who you know that knows them. So I called up Jennifer and I said, "Jennifer, I see that you know Catherine, and I see you're going to this event. Can I sit with you?" And she said, "Yeah, you can sit with me." now I have somebody to sit with at the event. And I said, can you introduce me to Catherine? Now I don't have to think of something witty to say. I don't have to stand in line with everybody that's crowding around trying to introduce themselves to Catherine, because my friend Jennifer is going to introduce me. So that's a real easy way. And it's so easy with today's technology because everybody's out there on every list. And then the other thing I say is, if you're really an introvert, the other thing you can do is volunteer. Find out where your woohoo crowd might be and volunteer. Almost every association has some kind of an event and they need volunteers. And if you volunteer to sign people in, you get to meet everybody and you don't have to do anything. So again, it takes all the pressure off because it's your job. You know, you have to talk to them. So a couple of tips that I have for introverts that might want to find another way to expand their circle and be intentional about meeting people that are doing what they want to do.
That's brilliant. And also you're very generous in introducing people to people, because I remember I was looking for people to interview on my show and you've introduced me to several women. And I just thought, how generous is that, you know, that she would do that for me. And so thank you, because I have been in touch with those women and they're slated to be on this show. So
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to help each other out. Wouldn't it be a great world if all of us women could just lift all the other women up all the time?
Yeah. And by the way, congratulations on being honored as one of Phoenix's outstanding women in business. That is quite an honor. So, so congratulations on that. I meant to say that earlier.
Thank you.
Yeah. So number 4, we're number 4.
Number 4. Now I got to think. So number 4 is your beliefs. And here's the thing about beliefs. Beliefs are conclusions that we've come to based on the information we have. So it might be information that our family told us, like, you're not good at art. You're never going to make a living at art because people can't make a living as an artist. I had a client, an amazing artist. He was told his whole life as a little boy, put down those crayons. You're never going to be an artist. You can't make a living doing that. And boys have to succeed and have to achieve. And he had a heart attack at 60 because he tried to follow that advice, and he was meant to be an artist. That was his purpose. Had the heart attack, and while he's recovering, he couldn't go back to work, and his doctor suggested that he take up maybe art therapy to relax. And so he hired an art teacher who fired him, and she said, "You're a better artist than I am." He was always meant to do that. But he had been told so much in his life that he had come to a conclusion, and he believed that I can't make a living as an artist. And he was recently, not recently, about a year ago or so, he was recognized in the Sonoran Foothills magazine as one of the area's top artists. So, but it took him a long time to undo that thinking. So your beliefs, sometimes our beliefs are, I like to say there's 2 kinds of truth. There's truth with a capital T, that's the absolute truth. And there's truth with a lowercase t. And the lowercase t is that truth that maybe it is true. Is it, if I'm in college and I'm struggling paycheck to paycheck, is that true that I'm financially struggling? Yes, it is. Is it the absolute truth about me? No, it's not. You know, myself, I was abandoned as a child. Is it true that I was abandoned? Yes. Is it true that I am not lovable or that nobody wants me? No, that's not the absolute truth about me. But sometimes our beliefs have been created in our minds. That's the conclusion we've come to because that has been our experience. And that's been our experience maybe in a season. So the problem with that is that can keep us from taking that step forward because we don't believe that. So we get stuck. And some of the ways that manifests itself are in things that we say like, what if I fail? Or my favorite one is, I'm not fill in the blank. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not educated enough. That was mine. I believed that for a long time. I was lucky to graduate high school. College was never an option. And so I get this job at a Fortune 10 technology firm, and everybody I'm working with went to college. And so they would start talking about college, and I would shut down. And that literally kept me from stepping out years earlier into my own business as a speaker, because I thought I wasn't educated enough. And you know what? In 4 years I've been a speaker, nobody's ever asked me what my education is. That's not why they want me to speak. They don't care. Even when I spoke at Texas A&M. So our beliefs can trip us up, and we have to ask ourselves. We have to overcome those beliefs by replacing those lowercase truths with the absolute truth. So for every one of those false beliefs, every one of those, like I said, maybe it even really is true, but it was true in a season. It's not the absolute truth about us. The way to get over that, because those who study the neuroscience of the brain will tell you that when you have this thought that comes into your mind, and it comes in so many times, that what if, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not fast enough, it actually makes paths in your brain that fire off like a habit. So if you want to change that, you've got to change that message. So you've got to know what that absolute truth is. And for me, I'm not educated enough. My absolute truth was, I have everything I need. I have everything I need to fulfill my purpose. And that was the absolute truth. So when that would fire off and I would hear myself saying that either out loud or in my brain, I would have to go back and remind myself, I have everything I need. And so for me, I started my day with my absolute truths every single day, especially when I was in the middle of the transition. I would see them, I posted them on my mirror, not an affirmation, an absolute truth. And I would see it, I would speak it, and I would envision it, because your brain can't tell when you're envisioning something from what's really happening. And you're training your brain, you're retraining that brain to believe that absolute truth, so that you can get out of and past that false belief and take that next step.
Which can takes you back to the habit, right? Because you can start to put those little sticky notes up on your mirror as a habit every day. So that's really cool. And then take those thoughts to inquiry. That's the only thing I would add to that for those who are listening, is just really, when you start to have a thought, yes, try to replace it with the absolute truth, but also inquire. And that, I guess you could say, is it true? And, if you have a thought, is that really true? Well, you will come to find out that, well, maybe no, it's not really true. So I can start to shift that thought into another thought. Beautiful. Okay.
And you know what else? All of these powers tie together, because when you said inquiry and question, that's where that power of people comes in. If you've got a trusted advisor or a mentor or a coach, that's what your coach is for, to help you see when you're off track and get you back on track. So I think that's where that power of people can really help as well, with working through some of those false beliefs.
Very cool. Yes. Yes.
So,
all right. The moment we've been waiting for. We're ready.
Yeah. So number 5, I love to say, again, all of the rest, they all have the ability to be life-changing if you engage them. That's the trick. You got to engage them. So number 5 is action. You've got to put them into action. Studies tell us only about 10% of people will listen and move into action. 10%. So that's not a good number for me, because I want us all to live a life that we love all the time. And I know that these powers work and are life-changing if you move into action. And I like to say, for those that have ever played tennis, if you play tennis, you throw your ball up to serve it, and you bring your racket up here, and you don't just stop here. You've got to follow through. And if I follow through and I go point this way, my ball's going that way. If I follow through, my ball's going that way. The thing is, we got to follow through in everything we do in life. If I got a mortgage, if I don't follow through, they get really crabby with me. And the thing about follow through is when we have good follow through, we know where we're going to land. And if we have good follow through, we can change the course that we're on. We can change the direction. Now, the question is, why do we not follow through? Fear of failure. We feel like we're going to fail. And that's where you have to go back to those beliefs and using the power of people and using the habits so that you can get past that fear and take that step into action. I also like to tell the story of watching an America's Got Talent show a couple of years ago. And they had this group of performers. I don't know if you saw it. They were called Zucchero. Did you ever see that by any chance? So they come on America's Got Talent, and they're from another country, and it was a group of people. None of them had any acrobatic training. None of them had any gymnastics training. None of them had any dance training. They were just a group of ordinary people who wanted to do something to make their lives better. And so this guy that created the choreography got the group together and they practiced. And then Simon says, good luck, let's see what you got. And they go out there and they did this incredible, stunning performance. You're just wow. They were acrobatics we'd never seen before. And they had people of all ages. They had children and all ages, all genders, and they're throwing them way up in the air and they're doing all these crazy flips. And we get all done and I'm sitting there with my 10-year-old and she says, I wonder how many fails that took. And I'm like, wow, Allie, that's so much perspective for a 10-year-old, because that is the secret. You have to give yourself permission to fail, because every time you fail, you learn and then you adjust and then you move into action again. And that's the secret to success, is take action, fail, learn, adjust, and then take action again. And that's the secret. But we don't take action because we're afraid to fail. So give yourself permission to fail and take that step, move into action. So the 5 superpowers: habits, action, people, purpose, and your belief. Happy spells happy. That's how you can remember them.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm going to actually have to listen to this again, because the pen that I pulled out to take notes is an old dead pen. So I'm going to rewatch this. I'm going to write it all down. And of course, I'm going to share this video with some other people. Let's see, we're kind of running out of time. So I was going to ask you, the last question I was going to ask you really was, where does confidence come from? And I'm wondering if it comes from number 5. Maybe you could just real quick tell us, where does confidence come from? Or is that like a big lecture? Like that's something we need to spend hours on?
You know what? I think, I think confidence is a habit. And when you first start out, you really don't feel confident, but you act confident, and it becomes a habit. We've all heard the story of the duck that looks calm on the surface and they're paddling like crazy underneath, right? Underneath the surface, they're paddling like crazy. We all feel that way. People tell me all the time I seem very confident. I have the same fears as everybody else. I have the same doubts as everybody else. But because I had a corporate background in sales, I had to learn to always appear confident. And so it's for me, confidence is a habit. And you just show up and act confident, and pretty soon it just becomes a habit, and then you just move forward like that all the time.
It just becomes part of you, is what you're saying, right? I love, that's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, Jean. Well, this has been so much fun. I feel like we could go for an hour, but I'm trying to keep it, less than an hour. So tell us what your offers are, where people can find you, and that kind of thing. Websites, anything you got.
So people can find me on my website. It's jeanbreeze.com, JEAN and BRIESE.com is probably the easiest way to find me, because every way you can contact me possible is on that website. Okay. And what I do is I speak in person or I speak virtually, because we're all in this virtual world right now. And I speak for teams, corporations. A lot of times it's a nonprofit organization. And I speak on achieving breakthrough results, doing the things you think are impossible. I speak about building high-performing cultures. And I speak more in depth about how you can use the 5 superpowers in your own personal and professional life.
Fabulous. So you really are influencing people probably all over the nation and maybe even all over the world, because now we can do that, with technology. I'm sure like having a live audience is great, but right now it's not so easy to have that. So good. Well, everybody look for Jean if you can use her services, or if you know someone who can, if you know a corporate HR person that's looking for a speaker or anything, look up Jean. And Jean, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. This has been really fun. I've learned a lot from you. So thank you. And I hope to have you back again. Maybe someday. Would you come back again?
I would love to, and I really enjoyed it as well. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thanks for bringing all the other women on too. Yay!
Yay! Let's go, women! All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight. Again, you can find me at Reinvention Life Coach if you are an empty nesting woman. I really want to encourage you to go there and get my free video series, because it's going to help you really chart a new course from the ground up. It's starting from the inside and understanding kind of what we're made of, all the pieces. So start there, and thanks again for coming, and we'll see you next week.